There we go.
Hey, John. Thanks for joining us. As we've done with other folks, we're going to chat a little bit about the apprenticeship system and how to make it simpler today. Um, Everybody else who's listening, this is John Dunn. I'm going to let him introduce himself, give him some perspective on his background in the apprenticeship system first.
Thanks. It's good to be here. Thank you for collecting all this information. Currently, I'm the Regional Director of Apprenticeship for the Bay Area Community College Consortium, which is a regional grouping of the 28 colleges in the San Francisco Bay Area, from Napa, Santa Rosa, all the way down to Monterey and Salinas area. So my job is to provide technical assistance, support, guidance, you name it, for the 28 colleges in the region as it relates to apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, and even wiggling into work-based learning in some ways, because that connects. Previous to that, I was at the State Labor Agency working on apprenticeship, the Community College Chancellor's Office, the Department of Education, and I started my career as a high school teacher for 10 years here in Elk Grove and Sacramento areas. So I've kind of got a broad range of interests and experiences in that way. So that's where I'm
Perfect.
coming from.
Perfect. And I think I've heard you say once, John, that your dad was an apprentice. I think that was part of one of your
Actually, it was
speeches
my
before. A
grandfather.
grandfather. There we go.
This thing back here is my grandfather's apprenticeship completion certificate as a machinist for the Atchison, Topeka, Santa Fe Railway in Richmond, California, and he completed his apprenticeship in 1927. So thankfully, we found that 6, 7, 8 years ago. I didn't even know he was an apprentice, and so apparently I'm supposed to be doing this, which led to finding out my other grandfather was also a pipe fitter apprentice in the Martinez Concord area too. So there you go.
There we go. We didn't, for everybody's watching us, we didn't plan that. I mean, I'd heard you give that speech, but I had no idea that that was up there. So we've
It's
got
pretty
props in
cool.
our
It looks
calls
better
now.
than any diploma I've got, actually.
All right, John. So there's one question we're doing with everybody we talk to. Really curious to hear, from your perspective, how do we make the apprenticeship system simpler?
You asked me that, and one of the things that continues to come up over the last 10 to even 15 years, but even more so more recently, as we've gained momentum and there's more conversation about apprenticeship, is to find a way to incentivize employers to say yes. And that can come in different forms. We've had these conversations about straight tax credits, funding, ways to take some of the financial burden off of the employers, but it boils down to finding a creative way to make it easier for them to say yes. One area that we're really delving into recently is how do we figure out a way to maybe take some of that human resources burden off of the employer and create an employer of record, so that the apprentice is not specifically employed by the employer themselves, but by another agency that can handle the human resources back end, the workers' compensation, some of the liability concerns that come up when we show employers the apprenticeship contract, their attorneys get involved. In Australia, I was able to visit there a year and a half ago, and they operate in kind of that way as a staffing agency. They have these intermediaries there that work a lot like a staffing agency, but for apprenticeship. So they are the employer of record. They do the pre-screening, the hiring, things like that. So I've seen a few examples. Right now, I'm kind of focused on that employer of record area, but really, how can we find a way to incentivize employers to say yes?
I love that. I love that because, at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of talk in apprenticeship about, funding side of things and intermediate, like a whole bunch of things that don't touch on, I think, the core of what makes apprenticeship successful is that an employer has to want to take on an apprentice, right? And if historically, culturally, we don't have that baked in, how do we incentivize employers to want to do so? So you already answered this a little bit, but if I was to just ask you, a different way, if you had a magic wand and could get employers involved beyond, maybe the employer of record, is there anything else you think could be done to make it easier for employers to say yes?
I think we need to create more regional or sub-regional geographic apprenticeship standards, so that, say, a college or a workforce development board or a nonprofit organization of some sort holds the standards and they are consistent, so that we don't create one-offs all over the place unless it's necessary. We have a few employers that maybe work in aerospace or other industries that need to kind of contain their apprenticeship, but we have the occupations and the skills needed are generic in many ways, so that we could have one set of apprenticeship standards in a particular region that focuses on employers in that industry sector, and makes it easy, eliminates some of the pain of getting new standards approved. I think that's something that we're working on in the Bay region. I know some of the other community college regions are thinking about that also. So.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think if you want to become an expert in the apprenticeship system, you want to go down and create your own standards, go for it. But it should be a lot easier. Just pick something off the shelf and move on, and not have to learn everything that comes with being an apprenticeship program, a whole new lingo, registration standards, things like that.
Yeah. And I think some of our colleges with the California Apprenticeship Initiative grants, it's become college-based in some ways, but we are working more regionally with some of those grants, so that the colleges understand from that perspective. There's a win that needs to happen with the colleges in terms of enrollment and student success, that not every college needs to hold the actual standards, but that college has the same curriculum and course catalog available to employers as the college 25 miles away.
Sure.
You don't both have to have standards approved
Yep.
to be successful. So
makes sense. John, I love it. I appreciate your perspective. Thanks for joining us, and we'll let you go today. Thank you.
Ciao.